Hello everybody, this is Stuart Harrison, Watchman X, and I am a Watchman and Seer of the Most High I Am Creator and his son Yahushua. What I'm going to do today is make a video of an article I wrote back in 2017, and at the time I wrote this in basically because what came about at that time was a lot of the New Agers, the New Age people like Benjamin Creme were talking about their great Maitreya, and they were talking about something that they call the Great Arrival. So I wrote this article and I'm basically gonna read it out. I finally figured out how to make pictures on OBS. So I'm going to be sharing a few pictures about what I'm talking about later on. And I called this article "The First Great Arrival That Ancient People Around the Earth Witnessed and Recorded in Rock." So today I'm going to talk about dimension portals such as the Norway Spiral, which was created by the firing of a missile from atop the mountain there. At the end of that clip of film, if anybody can still see it, a small black craft came flying through that spiral. Yeah, so there was a lot of talk back in sort of 2016, because at the time, yeah, they're talking a lot about this Maitreya, who's now dead actually, or at least his body is, and what they claim would be an en masse arrival of their so-called spirit guides. And they actually call it the Great Arrival. Well, I believe we have already had a Great Arrival, and it was not only witnessed by the populations that had spread out around the globe back then, but it was recorded. After the Tower of Babel incident, and soon after, in what is called in the Bible the days of Peleg, the people had to gather in groups based on who could now understand each other, after the confusion of the languages, and then dispersed around the various land masses and starting new life and forming new nations. All remembered, though, just what had happened at that tower. They took that story with them into their cultures. The fallen angels and watchers who all followed the devil into rebellion came back after the flood to all the places where the populations had migrated to. They came through dimension portals that looked like giant spirals in the sky, flying their extra-dimensional angelic spacecraft. After their angelic rebellion, the Creator, or the Archon, they call him, the Great Archon, had cast them out of the heavenly dimension, which is the sixth dimension upwards. The fifth dimension is a neutral dimension, and it's to sort of separate the fourth, the kingdom of darkness, and the angelic realms. The fifth dimension is a neutral realm, and usually that's where these witches and astral projection people go to. The devil used his allies' vast angelic knowledge to make his own dimension portals, and used one, in fact, to travel directly into the Garden of Eden, where he seduced both Lilith, and Lilith was the Genesis 1:27 creation, made them both male and female. And then later on, in Genesis 2:7, because of that incident, Adam was put into a physical body instead of a fifth dimensional one, because he and Lilith were both created fifth dimensional. But he gets put to sleep and a new body made for him, where he's now a physical being only. And so later on, he gets this new woman who comes from him physically, so that they can be more sort of gelled together, if you like. They'd have so that Eve would have more of a reason to stick with him. But he came back again, and he seduced the second woman as well, before she was even called Eve, and got them to leave the inexperienced and unknowledgeable Adam at the time. Adam was, I mean, imagine being born around sort of 25 to 30 years old as an adult, knowing nothing, only what you're being told in the garden. So, the first rebellion, in which the devil caused a third of the angels to suffer the same fate, were not only cast out of the realm of light, but changed in form to the various reptilian, draconian species. The second rebellion, by the Watchers, was when they also could not contain their lust for women, and were also cast out, but not changed in appearance. The Watchers stayed the Watchers. They became the so-called Nordics and Pleiadians, however you say that. It is these fallen angelic entities that are still communicating with the channelers of the New Age movement today, as many Christians know. After some time, the Watchers followed suit and also took human women by force, and no doubt as offerings to appease the gods. The result of angels and women mating was, as many know, the twisted hybrid abominations, such as giants, trolls, and they also did a lot of genetic splicing experiments, creating things like Minotaur, Medusa, and it's interesting to remember that ancient myth means history. That's its dictionary meaning. Myth doesn't mean fantasy story. Myth means history. So, in other more modern terminology, these hybrids came about not only through rape and mating, but genetic splicing experiments. In other more modern terminology, transhumanism. This very nearly contaminated all life on Earth and was judged and dealt with when the Creator brought about a global flood, destroying anything on the surface of the Earth. The Watchers and co. scurried about, plucking to safety as many of their hybrid and giant children as they could. In short, the population of mankind grew once again, all living on the same landmass. Nimrod, at that time, was given the stolen golden fleece from Noah's belongings, which was Adam's ram's wool clothing from the garden after the sin. Genesis 3:21. Not many people have made that connection to that ancient myth and legend, is that Adam's ram's wool clothing was the golden fleece. And Genesis 3:21, and it is imbued with mysterious, possibly angelic powers, and maybe even knowledge. Soon after Nimrod puts it on, he leads the first battle, and the people make him a king over them. Babel is soon built, or Babel, and for some reason we have Nimrod paying homage to a different entity than his grandfather Noah, and building the temple to Marduk atop a ziggurat, or a pyramid. Some kind of missile is fired from the temple into the heavens, depicted, I believe, by this ancient Inca stone. Now that picture, showing obviously people praying to the sun god, and also what's interesting about this picture is that I think it's done in remembrance of by the earliest people that came over to the Americas when they first moved across. Then the really interesting thing about this picture is that it has the arrows and the missiles coming out from the top of this tower, which is why I think this was a remembrance of what happened at the Tower of Babel. Because if you remember, a missile was fired into the heavens. He said, let's make an assault on heaven itself. So it's very important, I think, that this picture is really, it deserves the recognition of what this event is remembering. The Temple of Marduk firing a missile from atop. And I think this was done in remembrance of that Tower of Babel incident. So, which would mean that the Tower of Babel event was witnessed by almost all of mankind at that time. and been most worthy of immortalizing in stone. It has people surrounding the tower praying to the sun god, and even missiles coming out far into the heavens. Possible Tower of Babel incident. I've done that, right? Done that picture. It has always been a mystery as to what that missile was supposed to achieve. Maybe a missile like the one that caused the Norway spiral. A spiraling missile launched from a mountaintop in an attempt to open a portal to heaven. So the people spread around the globe, and populations start to grow again once the Earth's settled, and after the global flood you got a lot of the continents shifting still, and you've got volcanic eruptions, mountains coming up, ice age being formed because of the Earth's tilted on its axis. We've had a pole flip, and now instead of the global pre-flood environment where you had an even temperature all around the world, you had hot and cold spots. Now you would have an equator and an Arctic and an Antarctic. So that's why the ice ages form. And you don't have to go too far back into this planet's history for that. Ice can form incredibly fast. If you're unsure of how quickly ice can grow in thickness, there's a very interesting story about a World War II aircraft that went down in that area. Then when the team went to find it and went to get it back, it was like 80 feet or 80 meters under the ice, and they found it pretty recently before. So it was incredibly fast, this ice. So the people spread around the globe, and populations start to grow again, with the various tribes all adopting their own methods, styles, looks and cultures. Clothing determined by climate and temperature, and the availability, of course, of the materials. Different parts of the earth, but all being handed down the same story. Not only of Noah and the Great Flood, but the Tower of Babel incident. Then at some point in our ancient history, maybe 5,500 years ago, when many scholars think mankind acquired new knowledge and skills such as irrigation and writing, and in every major area of population, they all witnessed the very same event around the globe. This arrival of many swirling, circular spiral formations appearing in the sky, only to see things that must have had the same effect as if it happened today, stunning into wonderment. Great ships flying out from the center of these giant spiral-like doorways opening from the heavens. These spirals in the sky are dimension portals from their homeworlds to Earth. They landed and made themselves known to every new infant nation. They declared themselves to be the gods and makers of mankind, and no doubt showed off a bit. This is heard a lot of today from a purely Sumerian perspective in the Anunnaki story. The Anunnaki were the Watchers, simply returning after the flood. They also brought back some of their hybrid children and set them up over every major population as their leaders, their deities, that came from the gods, who came from heavens, such as Quetzalcoatl. Not only a strange variety of creatures of all shapes and sizes, but possessing great knowledge and skill, as well as appealing futuristic apparel. Many of them retained in their angelic parents' ability to shapeshift and to whatever they desired. Very quickly they must have established themselves as the gods, but these pretenders were, however, and are still subject to the Creator's Genesis 3 curse over them, which sets them at enmity against mankind, and still cursed to have to eat the dust of the earth, which is mankind. So they were mostly cruel gods, demanding human sacrifice and lots of blood, to not only eat and drink, but to take secret bathing sessions in. Ambrosia of the gods comes to mind. Then we have the origins of religion springing up all over these populations, such as the Temple of Marduk at Babel. The priests, of course, were the only ones allowed to get close to these fake gods, and were no doubt rewarded greatly for both their silence and their services, such as arranging for a constant stream of new victims to eat. They became the only holders of secret knowledge, and most likely the origin of secret societies. The priesthood were the secret societies of the day. So just like today, the wealthiest or most influential people in the world are the ones closest to these entities. But obviously, it's a dangerous pastime. These gods also brought back with them on their flying craft some of the giants that were saved from the flood. Not all of them, some of them. I believe that it was this en masse first arrival all around the globe that is depicted in many of the ancient petroglyphs and cave paintings all around the world. It is also why many smaller populations took to living in subterranean caves to hide from the giant's appetite in such cities as this one. See the city on top, and then there's like a place where they could run to. They could all disappear if they wanted to, and they could take all their cattle with them. Looks like the entire population could live under that Cappadocian city. Remembering that many hybrids, such as the giants, had 6 fingers and 6 toes. So when people made cave paintings such as this one, I think all the people back then used paint on their own hands to not just sign their work, but to testify that it was normal people that lived down there, and not those horrible 6-fingered beasts that ate people. There is clearly a depiction of the arrival of the gods' flying ships. Clearly then, this New Age's great arrival heralding in the age of Aquarius, or Ganymede, strange name I know, is nothing but a copy of the first time they showed up en masse and convinced everyone of their lies some 5,500 plus years ago. We are your makers, we are the gods, we have come to set you on the right path and save you all from yourselves. Sacrifice to us and we will keep you safe from harm, and we will continue to make the sun shine down upon you. Blah, blah, blah. Their master is the father of lies. We mustn't forget that. They obey the father of lies. There are hundreds of spirals crafted into rocks all around the earth, proving that no matter where they lived, they all saw the same great first arrival. All you have to do is type in a search of the name of the country or area of landmass, followed by the word petroglyph, such as these examples. I'm going to come up with a series of pictures now. First of all, I'm going to show you an American one. Now, here you see the spiral here. And in all these pictures, the spirals are connected through the drawing to whatever comes out of them. And that is obviously a giant. That's an American one. Then we have, there's quite a few British examples, but the British example would be this one. Spirals everywhere. Then there's an African one. Now here you see the reason why this is very important is because it's connected. See, it's connected to the spiral. That giant. It's obviously a giant because they've obviously put a tree in next to the giant to depict its size, to give you a size perspective. So that's an African one. We even Australian ones. We have Australian spirals And obviously the Aborigines are the descendants of the people that first moved into their country. And of course, this is where they got their famous rock art. You know, a lot of these things are rock art, but a lot of them, anything with a spiral in it, is not rock art. It's history by the people that lived there and witnessed these events. That's my belief. So we've even got French petroglyphs, spirals, giants, once again. We've even got German petroglyphs, giants and spirals. Chinese, yet again a tree for perspective, how huge this giant was, and how there's other little beings that came out with him. In fact, that looks like a lot. Some of these look like the ant people that you hear about in American legends. But different and a variety of creatures came out of the portal. That's what came with it. Even that was Chinese, and then you've got Japanese. Well, these are rocks that look like they've been buried under water for a long time. They look like coastal rocks to me. Probably something to do with that megalithic thing they've got under the water. Got Persian. Now here is interesting because with the Persian one, it shows depictions of the giant gods being set up over them. That's what that is. That's these priesthood and the kings of or the leaders of the people approaching these new gods, giant gods that have been set up over them. And then of course you have the Norse or Viking petroglyphs. Another spiral, giant. I'm not really sure what this is, but it's a very fat man. I remember though, he's just had a hole put right through him with that spear. And there's other Viking ones, Norse ones, and this one is rock art rather than actually done at the time. And it's done in remembrance of the other pictures that they used to see and were stories they were told about. The ships in the sky, the flying craft, giants, little people. Well, that's them, normal people. That's their boats on the ground. And this is probably the origin of all the Norse mythos. You do know, of course, that Friday is Freya's Day, and Thursday is Thor's Day. So even in today's world, we still have things attaching us to that ancient Norse mythos. And so I also believe that it was in remembrance of this global arrival that all stone circle monuments, such as Stonehenge and Avebury in the English county of Wiltshire, were made. Show you the picture of Avebury. That's an old depiction of it. But I can't find an aerial photo of it, but when you visit the place, when you go outside the village on the other side, there's a spiral, a sort of decreasing circle spiral over the standing stones. So that's Avebury. And here's a picture from an ancient book that was written by a very, very early monastic monk, of course. And he was told the story of the Stonehenge thing. And that was Merlin and the giant. So the original name of Stonehenge, of course, was the Giant's Ring. And this ancient picture was of Merlin and a giant friend of his rebuilding it. According to the story, it was moved from its original location. So there's something very special about the Stonehenge and Avebury area. And it's my belief that all of these, wherever these petroglyphs are found, with spirals and giants, that's where one appeared above them in the sky. That is why they're in the place that they are. And who knows? There's a lot of talk lately about the thinning of the veil. And who knows? Maybe these areas were also thin veil areas. A curtain between our dimensions. So, ancient people then made a record for future generations so that we would all know what happens when these giant sky spirals appear. False gods and giants of enormous size follow, and they eat people. So folks, when they show up soon proclaiming all the same nonsense, remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and they want nothing more than to kill you and ensure you cannot be saved by Yahushua and get to spend eternity in heaven with the Creator. Enmity is the only feeling you should have towards these deceivers. So there we have it. That's my belief. So let's not. So anybody, archaeologists, or anybody who goes around looking at these, what they call rock art now, I think we need to make a separation between the ones with the spirals and the giants in them. I think they were the first ones ever done. And then after that, other people after them would, therefore, they'd know how their rock art became a thing. But the depictions, wherever you see the spirals, giants, they were dimension portals. That's my belief. Yeah, bless. This is Watchman X. And hope you give this some thought, spread it around, share it, and see what you think about that. The funny thing is, Avebury, the place with the stone circles in Avebury, they're both in Wiltshire, and Avebury is very close to Stonehenge. It's the latest dating is 3,300 BC. Now we're of course in 2000, so you add that to 5,300. We've got pretty much the same date that most scientific research shows that mankind acquired these skills around 5,500 years ago. Writing, irrigation, and of course it all falls into place now, doesn't it? With the what we have as the Sumerian Anunnaki story. But I believe all of these stones are making a record of what they witnessed. There we go. Thank you for listening.